as long as you're going out and meeting people and you're attending various functions, whether it's a community networking group or just meeting people and showing that you're visible and that you have something to offer, that business will come your way because people are attracted to other people of like mind. So if they can relate to you, they'll go, yes, this guy knows what he's talking about. I will refer my friend, family, or give you my own business. And what I found was success breeds success.
This episode of A Beacon of Hope is proudly brought to you by Campfire Studios. To find out more, visit campfirestudios.co.nz. 2, 3, 4. A Beacon of Hope is a podcast that shines a light on the human spirit and explores the power of hope in our lives. Join me, Will Fleming, as I talk to people from all walks of life about where they find hope and how they use it to navigate life's challenges.
Be good, be safe, and be happy.
Andrew, man, thank you so much for joining me on A Beacon of Hope, my podcast, which I pitched to you, like this podcast which attempts to talk about the topic of hope, something that I think we don't really think about in our day-to-day busy lives, but something when the chips are down, we all hope is real.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we kind of get going, can you just kind of give the viewers and listeners a little bit of a intro to you and who you are?
Well, thank you, Will. It's a pleasure to be offered an opportunity to attend this podcast. So when I heard about it, I was like, absolutely keen. So great to be here. A little bit myself, Andrew from Pukekohe, born and raised here, currently local board member for the Auckland Council, also mortgage broker as well. I've been doing that for about 7 years on top of the 20 odd years I've had in the bank. So that's where I've come from. And yeah, community is looking after our community or trying to represent our community is the driving force behind why I've decided to go on with the local board. But here today to help you or discuss what does hope mean? What does it look like?
Yeah. And have you ever kind of thought about that topic? I guess another way to say that is, have you had moments where you've needed hope in life? Because I don't know if we get time to slow down enough to think back to these moments where maybe I'll just say in the past, maybe more people went to church and you kind of outsourced your hope to these groups, and I don't know about you, but like I've got a young family. I probably would go to church, but I kind of grew up with it, but then it didn't become, kind of lost a little bit of maybe what it used to be, a place for people to be. And maybe I've replaced a bit of that with the other community stuff I do, with the FaceTime calling that you can connect with people. And so probably deep down, I think it's a great thing to go to your local church, but it's not practical always for me. But kind of tying that back to hope, I'm like, heavier times in my life, I've leaned on people, I've had people. And so just looping back around to that question, like, what is hope to you?
Well, I think everyone needs hope. It is a beacon that we hold on to, search for, because you're absolutely right. Without hope, what is there? Just despair. So at the bottom, when you hit rock bottom, you do need something to look forward to grab onto. So, for hope for me is that belief that things will get better. And as we said before this recording, a wise friend, a good friend of mine once said that the sun will always rise tomorrow. End of the day, the sun will always rise tomorrow. And that's hope in itself. And I know when I first joined my business with my business partner, and going from the security of a salary every fortnight to now self-employment and not having that security and then going, and I'm not know if I can do this. This is, but you got to let that go. And like he provided that hope and just going, as long as you're doing the behaviors that I've taught you, that we've discussed, things will get better. And as long as you just keep doing those behaviors and reaching out to that, it will come. And he was right.
What were those behaviors if we just dig a bit deeper? Because I totally share what you're saying. Like, I used hope when I started this business, Campfire Studios. I wanted to believe that there was a spot for me, that if I offered something, people would respond to that. But it's very difficult to believe that's true.
Yeah, correct. Well, that's it. It's the unknown. And you need people to pat you on your back. You need those people supporting you, whoever they are in your life, friends, family, colleagues, random people off on podcasts. But you need that. And that's what you look forward to. So his behaviors, I guess, what he was trying to teach me was that as long as you're going out and meeting people and you're attending various functions, whether it's a community networking group or just meeting people and showing that you're visible and that you have something to offer, that business will come your way because people are attracted to other people of like mind. So if they can relate to you, they'll go, yes, this guy knows what he's talking about. I will refer my friend, family, or give you my own business. And what I found was success breeds success. And so I looked on that, and it was crazy just asking for business from friends and family, and it comes in.
Yeah.
And then they'll refer their friends. And before you know, I went from, a 6-figure sum in the bank to literally under 10 in the first year to then the second year going, I'm now making more than what I was in the bank, and I'm doing less hours.
Yeah.
And it's more fulfilling because it's my own business. I'm doing what makes me happy, and I've got no higher authority above me.
Yes.
Dictating what I can and can't do.
Yeah.
The hours. And but so that first year was a real struggle because you don't know where the next pay is coming in, but you've got your bills.
And that's the thing that is a bit of a hope crusher, is you can easily look at life and say, hold on, this is all mapped out. Every week I've got to pay a rent or a mortgage or a power bill or a phone bill, and those will never stop. So how am I going to get ahead of that wave? And like you say, that experience of keeping it around some fundamentals, I guess what popped in my head too is maybe hope's a doing word.
Yeah.
Or a doing thing where you've got to move forward a little bit and something will be there to meet you. But when I talk like that and I hear myself talk like that, there's a big part of me which thinks that sounds like bullshit. How do we, but I don't believe it to be bullshit, but it sounds like it, like you hear many things.
It's a fugazi. You can't see it. And I think we're very much a little bit tall poppy. We like to cut things down and go, oh, that's BS. Nah, it's crap. It's not. But honestly, it's there. You just have to believe in yourself or believe that things will get better, but they won't by themselves. It is part hope, but more likely you doing the doing. And, I can't just sit at home and wait for deals to come in. Can't wait for the phone call to call and go, oh, hi, Andrew, yeah, I want a mortgage. I have to go out and speak to people and be visible, because that's the hope that if I'm out there, I hope business will come my way, and it does.
And I guess there's times where you don't want to go out there.
Oh, absolutely. Rainy days, traffic on the road.
That's the kind of test of life, is it? To say that I'm only going to meet you halfway, man. On those days you don't feel like going out there. Sometimes I feel like that about emails.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually not someone who is very good at my natural instinct is I think I'm a bit of a burden. I don't really mean that, but if I pitch you a business idea, I kind of think, yeah, they're not going to really want that. It takes a lot for me. You've got to give a lot of energy for me to read okay, Andrew's really keen on podcasts. Cool. I think we can have a good chat here. But it's not my natural thing. So I spend a lot of time trying to do that via email, And sometimes I won't want to send these emails. And they're not even hard out emails. They're just, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Keen to catch up or something like that. I guess you could say they're lead emails or sales emails, but more for me, I'm just trying to connect. But I do think that if I don't do it, that whatever's on the opposite side of that, a potential, won't meet me there. And so that sounds fair. And that's what I mean. It's interesting to talk about, like, if you're someone looking for hope, are you moving towards that hope, or are you waiting for it to come to you?
Well, I think we need to change our mindset and not think that I'm a burden, I'm a waste of time, that they're not going to want to speak to me. We need to change our mindset and go, I have something to offer and they have something to offer. I want to show to them what I can offer. So it's a value proposition, change of mindset, rather than saying, oh, they're not going to want to deal with me because I'm only a small-time podcaster. To change it around, hey, I'm a podcaster. I can add value to what they're offering.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they want to work with me type thing? So change that. It's very hard to change into that growth mindset is what.
Is that your natural mindset?
No.
Okay,
No,
so let's talk through that. Like, was there another Andrew that I could talk to who would have not the same thought patterns as today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, say 5 years, 7 years ago, there was I guess you could say a shy little Andrew there.
Yeah.
That didn't want to go out and meet people, didn't want to do anything, scared of the world because the world is a bad place. It's just not a bad place. There are elements of bad, but it's not as bad as what is. And where that hope comes into it is that it's not bad, that there are more good people out there than there are bad.
Yeah. And what shifted for you? I mean, I can tell you what shifted for me. I was a bit like you. How that manifested for me was like I was quite comfortable for someone to kind of own me, to pay me, to tell me I'm doing good. And as long as I got what I needed, I was content. There was other ways that I wasn't, maybe I had a burning desire to not listen. But I guess ultimately I'm 43 now. I'd say for, nearly 40 years or maybe 20 years of your working life, I was very happy to not reach my potential.
Yeah.
And that took actually someone, not treating me right in the professional workplace for me to see that, oh, wait, I can't carry on down this path. There's no roads I look here where I can see a good outcome, because the problem is I was getting older and it's kind of not cool to be the rebel once you're a certain age. And so that's the beauty about life. It like has all these little secrets for you, But I mean, that's just a little bit of kind of how I have viewed that kind of transformation into somebody very motivated to just maybe control a few more parts of their life. What about you? What changed for that Andrew 5 years ago to today?
Well, I guess starting my new business, or starting my business when I left the bank, was that I couldn't just rely on the lead that the bank provided me. You had to go out. If you don't go out, you don't get business. Don't get business, don't get paid.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. It's a harsh reality on that. So speaking to other people in the field and going, what did you do? What do you do? How did you do it? What worked well for you? What didn't work well? And just getting perspective from colleagues, friends, families, and then go, right, what's the common theme here? I need to be out there. I need to be speaking to people. Okay, it's not my comfort zone, but I'm out of it. And eventually you show that, okay, that hope is that the world is not as bad as what you thought it was. That it's great to meet new people like yourselves. Asked me 5 years ago, would I be on this? Hell no. Too scared for that,
Yeah.
Scared of what people might think.
Yeah.
And see and, have an opinion, which they may do, but the art of acceptance is one thing that I've learnt over my journey, I guess.
Awesome.
On that. So still on that journey, but it does help to just alleviate that little nagging voice in the back of your head.
I love that you're in finance. I love it because I've been scared of that my whole life. I have to confront that now because I'm in business, but I still have a lot of me who at any chance I will try and not deal with it. I've got my head around the fundamentals, I guess.
Yeah.
But I still read and see things, and I heard something. Is it Robert Kiyosaki the other day on a podcast? He was talking about cash flow, and I was like, I had to ask myself, how much do I know? And they say things that are very scary. If you don't know your cash flow, you basically just whatever the analogy was, ice skating uphill is how I saw it. But I'm like, okay, so something's going right because enough people are paying me for the service I provide, but I need to learn so much more. And so I'm very interested, like, why finance for you? Is it really cool to understand the dollar and how it works? I imagine once you get your head around that thing, like, surely you can sleep well at night because at least you might not know where your clients are coming from, maybe when you started, but you know what to do when they pay you.
Yeah. Well, I guess finance it's always been a part of me. Like, even when I was younger and playing Monopoly with my friends and family, I always wanted to be the banker. I don't know why, but I was like, oh, I'm always the banker, on that. But I just love the idea of what a dollar does and what it can do and how does it work, because you can spend a dollar 10 different ways, but what value does that give to you? And what do you get out of it? And that has just always been very interesting to me. And it was natural that I'd go work for the bank on that. But we were speaking when I was working for a bank, I won't mention it, but I was a teller. I couldn't balance. I was always 20 cents over, 20 cents under, $1 here, $1 out. I just couldn't understand. If I'm taking $20 in the deposit and I'm giving $20 out, how am I over and under? It just, didn't work for me. But then I eventually moved into what they call private banking, which is looking after the really privileged people. And it gave me a great understanding because I'm speaking to them, not as the banker, but as a person, and go, tell me, Joe, not his real name, how did you become so successful? You've made $100 million forestry business. How did you get there? Because you would have started like me, and then hearing them, how they did things, and go, oh, wow. And then go, if they can do it, why can't I? Why can't anyone do it?
So what were some of the things they were saying? You don't have to go into specifics, but one of the things I love about podcasting is you can send models out into the world, and I like it when I talk to people who are doing it. I don't like people talking to me. And that was one of the challenges I had having managers around video and content, is you're talking to me like you know more than me. And in this case of this world, I know more than you, but because of hierarchy, you have to. So the learning for me was I'm someone who has to learn from people who are just better than me. And that's okay. That's just my way of parking it in my mind. I guess what I'm coming back to, though, is like, what were some of the things that really rich people were saying to you about, how they started from nothing, how they went on to build something?
Well, everyone's all the same. No one's better than them. You're not better than anyone else. They all come from humble beginnings. They have an idea. They see that there's a niche market or something like, forestry, for example. People need wood to build houses. Well, how do I provide that? What values can I add to that piece of wood? I can take that piece of wood, chop it up 10 different ways, and offer different products of wood. And then they export and go, well, maybe I can get a better dollar by sending it to, the islands and go from that. But they all remained pretty humble. So they're not any different to me or you. There was no flash cars, no flash clothes. They're just simple people. And when you speak to them, they'll turn up at your office just in plain clothes.
Gotcha.
And you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
About them.
And that's actually the people we should be learning from, right?
Absolutely.
Not the ones in the Ferraris. Because that's my instinct, is that you're projecting wealth.
Correct.
But I want to learn from wealthy people. And I've got one mentor. I found that mentor when I was 41, so 2 years ago. They helped me on this journey because it takes a lot of guts and courage. Even if you believe hope is there for you, you've still got to take that first step. And so I went and found this person. They took a coffee with me, and I started looking at how everyone looks at this person, and they are very in demand. And I said, why hang around with me? You know, like, surely this is not good use of your time. And he said to me, well, I recognize your search, because I had that too. And I was like, oh, well, thank goodness that that the world is not so plain.
Yeah.
Because if it was, he'd only be spending his time with other super wealthy people. And so I've been back, you know, and we have good conversations, and it's helped me just believe. I can remember a time where, like, say, money started coming in, but like on paper, it wasn't as much as my salary used to be, because, as you know, when you start earning money, it comes in bits and pieces here and there, and sometimes you'll have an influx, and it's actually very challenging because you're like, I don't know what we make.
Yeah.
You know,
how to balance the books.
That's right. And so I went to my mentor and I said, I have anxiety because I feel like it's not enough. I feel like it's not enough compared to, even though my bills are paid, even though I'm starting to create a buffer, I feel like it's not enough. And he said, all right, well, here's a tactic. Pick a number. So I picked a number, and he said, all right, now split it into thirds, you know, and if it's the right number, you should be able to service, the top third should be able to service, you know, all your bills and whatnot, or your investments if you want to. The middle third is your amber or warning zone. If you reach that, you know, you got to think a bit more critically, no more throwing your money away, you know, or thinking that you're buying muffins for people. And if you're down in the red zone, the last third, then you're critical, you know, you got to ask for favors, ask for anyone to do business with you. And I thought that was a really interesting way, because the challenge for me was pick a number. And then if you can't stay in that top third, that number's too high. Yeah. And it just gave me a way to ring fence, like, because, you know, salaries are they're weird in your head.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you start getting up, like, let's say close to $100,000, which probably doesn't sound a lot.
It's not a lot these days.
No, it's not. But if you started where I did at Sky TV on 30,
right. Yeah.
Once you work your way up, you know.
33 at the bank is what
that's
I
right.
started
That's
on.
right.
It's crazy. And then I guess the starting wage now at a bank is 55, 60.
And that would still not take you that far in today's environment, you know.
Especially with the cost of living we are finding.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it's very interesting how we're still, and, you know, when I first met you, you said one of your passions was to give community financial literacy.
Yes.
You know, and like, I think most people are like, I'm keen to know about that, but where do we start? So I guess that's a question. Where do we start? Like, you know, what does it mean to understand a dollar, you know? And have you kind of thought about that, like, in terms of how it's been useful in your life? And maybe someone listening today, if they're considering, you know, how do I take a bit more control of my money? I don't even really know what that means when I say that. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I try and live by it's a theory. I mean, that's for anyone to judge themselves. But there's a saying, you know, 70, 20, 10. What does that look like? You can go, well, 70% of your income goes to your needs to make sure all your basic living costs are covered. Then 20% of whatever that can go on your wants, you know, your phone, going out, and then 10% for savings, because we need those savings, right? And the reason why I say savings, because life happens. When I first moved into my house, got a, you know, big size mortgage back of the day. Was thankful that I had a deposit saved up, but still quite high, right? But in those 3 months, you wouldn't believe what broke down. I had if I can remember, it was washing machine broke. Just like this, you know, up and left, and like, okay, that was $1,000 to replace, right? A couple of weeks later, the oven decided to play up, and you go, okay, another couple of $1,000 for a new oven, right? And then what? The stovetop broke, and you go, really? Like, come on, guys, it's like, universe, what are you telling me? And then the heat pump, like 4 things within 3 months broke. And if it wasn't for 2 things, one of the savings account that I had money behind that because life happens like that, but also using a little bit of financing and going, well, if I put it on the credit card, I can get those 55 days of free interest, which is a bit of where the cash flow comes into the side of things, that you don't need to necessarily pay for it now, but you do need pay it back within those 55 days.
Yes.
So that sort of, but without that savings that of behaviours that I had,
Yes.
I don't know where I would be. I'd be without a cooking utensil. I'd be, how do I do a washing? I'd be at the laundromat paying the $2 per wash.
And I guess there's a conversation too for someone who, maybe is a bit unlucky, doesn't have that information, doesn't have that knowledge. Those things become stresses in life.
They do.
And those things can quickly be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And when humans are overwhelmed, we don't make good decisions. And so I think part of the challenge is it's getting that knowledge out, making it, in a way that people kind of get it. I remember, we're sitting at the Pacific Digital Knowledge Bank, and the founder of this place, Akure, he was telling me he comes from Samoa, and his dad was Samoan coming here, but they didn't know they needed a driver's license.
Right. Yeah.
Or some of the information didn't get through.
Mm.
So then they got pulled over and they got a fine. And for New Zealand cop, that makes total sense, right? Don't have your license, you pay the fine. But for someone who didn't know, and you can see that it's both right and wrong, and that's many of our things in life. But he said he never saw domestic violence till they came here. And I said, what do you think it was? And he said, I think it was, booze, because that's a big bad one for all cultures, but also stress. And I can quite easily see that, life happens, as you say. And so, that probably puts into context what you said, the 70, 20, 10. And so, okay, why have savings? That's a luxury, isn't it? No, it's a necessity for when life's coming for you.
It's the same with insurance. It's a necessary evil, especially with mortgages. I try to say to all my clients, I know it's not a pretty thing, it's not an attractive thing, but mortgage protection insurance, I don't sell it. I'm not an insurance advisor, but I have experts who are. I trust them like they're my family, because they've looked after me when I had a kidney problem, and it was called kidney stone. Right, but that mortgage protection covered me for those 3 months. Though I wasn't able to work, I wasn't able to earn an income. So thank God for that. But you're taking on a near $1 million mortgage, close to. I mean, that's $1,200 a week. What happens if you get run over or have a bus crash or something? How are you going to protect your whānau, your family? How are you going to look after that? Because your wife may be the stay-at-home person, or has a job that's not as high as your income. So we do need to cover that. And additional to your mortgage, yes, it's costly. It could be as little as $25 a week or $50, depending on your situation. For me, it's $100 now, because just the way the costs are. But every $100 a week, that's an insurance policy that if I'm out, I know that my mortgage is taken care of.
Yeah.
And that I won't be worried. I won't be stressed. Where the next one, ACC, for as good as it is, has its flaws. It's not designed to cover everything. It's just there. It's a bit of a safety net. But that mortgage protection is that little gap in between.
It's interesting too, because when you start your self-made journey or entrepreneurial journey, those things quickly come into focus. Like I now have medical care for me and my family, and like it's overwhelming. There's a lot of things to consider, and I'm just going through my head. I wonder, I've got life insurance, but do I have mortgage protection? I've got to check, because that's the thing I was saying to you when we had coffee. Like, there's so many things that you don't know, and that can also be overwhelming. But it's better than just parking it out of your mind and having someone else take control of that for you, So I try and give myself some permission that there is a journey to this, and, maybe it's a cycle where it just takes a bit of time for you to learn all these things. And your goal or your job is to try and learn quickly, so it doesn't become too much of an impact, And
I love meeting other business owners as well, because every journey is different. And so where I may think that I'm the expert in finance. No, I learn more from engaging with others. And like yourself, you're the expert in podcasting. I may know my financing and you don't. Happy to share those ideas.
Yeah.
And you go, I didn't really think of it like that. But then also I look at that and go, well, how do people's situations influence the way I deliver my advice to tailor make it? I had a really good conversation a couple of weeks ago with a community group here in Franklin about homeless people. And one of the topics there was that we can't just give homeless people food bags because they've got nowhere to cook. And I was just thought about it for a second. I was like, absolutely right. And they don't have utensils. So there's no point giving them a food bag if they've got nowhere to cook or how to cook. And so it fed on from that. And it was a real bit of an eye-opener. And I love those challenges of those eye-openers to help define my thought process and how do we help people? How can we do things without having a preconceived idea around people?
And that might be one of the conversations around finance that, how do you break up $1? But what if you're starting with a negative $1?
Yeah.
What if, I guess I'm in debt?
Yeah.
And how do you make a conversation about finance interesting when that exact word will be triggering a lot of people?
Yeah.
And I guess I mean triggering like just applying stress, because when people think finance, they think of I'm owing.
Yeah.
And so it's a tough conversation, but I think that it doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. It's just maybe the call is to work out, is it a negative topic for many? Okay, so how do we then bring people on the podcast that have clawed their way out?
Yeah.
And what's the strategy there?
It is possible. It does take determination, and you've got to help yourself, but also hope that it's going to get better, and it will.
Yeah.
What does it look like though? I mean, I've got this story that I met a young girl a couple of years ago, good job, but saddled with a lot of debt from previous bad decisions in life.
Yeah.
And that's where we all are. We all get somewhere, right? But they came to me and go, well, how do I get my first home Andrew? But I don't think it's even possible. And I'm like, well, it's always possible. Let's have a sit down. And their debt was eye-watering. It was pretty crazy. But I sat down with them and I said, right, we need to focus on the needs and wants and make sacrifices, because it's going to be tough, but we'll get you out of this and we'll get you into a house. And we set up a budget plan and go, right, we pay off your 30% rate of interest loans because they are the highest. Then we'll focus on that. Then we'll go down to your 20% ones, and then we'll go down to these ones, and eventually go from there. In a year, they pretty much paid off 75% of their debt. I was amazed. But they took it a step further and said, not only just took your budget, I supersized it by doubling it. Whatever you said, Andrew, I doubled it. And it meant I was on 2-minute noodles type food, and literally speaking. And that was great. And then 6 months later, she continued that behaviours and was able to come up with a 10% deposit on a house. Just a nice little unit for herself, works well. And I was able to go to the bank and demonstrate the behaviours that this person showed and said, look, at the end of the day, this person's committed. And it comes Friday night and the loan payment's coming up. Are they going to choose takeaways or a loan payment? This person will focus on the loan repayment over getting takeaways.
And the banks care about that? Like seriously? Because people looking outside and don't think that. When you see, let's just say on average in the news, banks making record profits, it paints a picture of just shrewdness, or like an algorithm. But can you just hand on heart say that, like, if you go to that and that person at home is trying, that will count in some way?
Yeah, because behind every bank, there is a human at the other end who is a bank employee, who is a lender, who's accredited to approve a loan. They want that human. They're just a human story. They are human themselves. So they got to fit within the policies and the guidelines that the bank sets them. But at the end of the day, they are just a human. And if you show to them that, hey, this person earns X amount of money, their expenses are, and end of the day, they will still pay their money. I have not yet found a banker that isn't wanting to extend that that line and go, yeah, okay, I'll prove it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And yeah, I've not yet met someone who has been a computer says no type person. Yeah, there have been times where things have been a little bit hairy, and then I like having that conversation with the banker and go, what are your concerns? What can we do? And just having a conversation over a week, alleviate their concerns. As a mortgage broker, my job is to be an advocate for that person. Tell the story about who they are, what they're wanting to achieve in life. Because that's all the bank wants to know. They've only got facts and figures. So they can only make a decision based on information. And they're very risk averse because obviously they have to be. So they need a story behind it. And if you can provide them with a good story, they will fight for you to their boss and go, I want to prove this deal. And I have yet to find someone that's not willing to fight.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool to hear.
It is. So even if you've got bad debt, bad credit, bad debt, whoever, there's always ways. And as a plug, as bias as a mortgage broker, but I don't see myself as an advisor. I see myself as an advocate. So I love speaking to people, hearing their stories, and then sharing that with the bank and promoting them to the bank of why they are a good customer, why we should be banking them. Give that person a chance. And yeah, I get obviously, remunerated for that, but that's not what I do. It's because I love helping people.
I also think a mortgage broker is really interesting because you get paid by the bank, eh?
Correct.
And that's a really good deal. I loved when I learned that from my mortgage broker, shout out Gene. Just the fact that seems very uncommon for me. That'd be like a GP getting paid from the hospital, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't know the practicality, but I like what the incentive, because your incentive is that I get the mortgage and you get paid from the bank because you brought a customer to them.
Yeah.
It's an awesome system. And it's even more awesome when the mortgage broker says, and we're going to get like whatever payback. Yeah. So look, I mean, it's fair because you're taking on all this debt, but at least it can be in a way which it seems to make sense to you.
Yeah.
And I think more systems would be cool if they were like that, just to take it off like, you've got to pay and you've got to then pay again. Anyway, we won't get into that.
Not without its challenges.
Yes.
The remuneration has its flaws. It's not a perfect system. I mean, you speak to a lot of mortgage brokers, and you say, what's the thing that comes to mind as a problem? And it will be the remuneration as the thing. It's not without totally talk a whole nother topic on
well, we need
that.
you got to have a podcast just about
absolutely
mortgage brokers, because
in the day it helps customers to get a free not say free service because it's not free, but it doesn't cost them, and they get the advice that they need in order to succeed.
Yeah.
And a good broker won't focus on the pay. I don't focus on the pay. I focus on the relationship. And I know that a mortgage is going to be a 30-year mortgage. It's a 30-year commitment. I want to be property partners for life, which is also my tagline. Simply Finance, property finance for life. So that's how I see it. It's a long-term game.
I think we're going to have many interesting chats over the years, and that's so cool, because that's the cool thing about meeting people and podcasting and, becoming mates, is that you actually get to share ideas. One of the things that I was kind of taken when I first met you is that you are part of the local council.
Yes.
And most people, just like I was to finance, run away from that with aggression, but you move towards that, and I see that as service to the community and also a necessity in community. I guess there's lots of views on councillors and stuff like that, but I just want to ask, what's the role you think of councils to provide hope in our communities.
Yeah.
You know, is that even a requirement? Sorry to put you on the spot, but do you have like any initial thoughts there?
Well, I guess what people want, people all want to know is what's in it for me, or what can we do? What can be done? And they hope that things will be better for them in terms of, it could be roading, infrastructure, service delivered, And I think our job is to show our community that we are looking in your best interest, or trying to. That's everyone's goal, is to, when they come on council, I've not met anyone who's on up for themselves. We all join because we want to become better persons for our community. And so we show that by showing people that your interests are our concern and all that, and hope things will get better. Yeah. I fundamentally believe that we'll try to make things better for everyone, no matter which side of the spectrum you're on. We all want the best outcomes.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good vision, and I just think it's so funny to me, as someone who thinks in this space a lot, how little we talk about it. I want to hear those kind of things. I want to hear the people who put their hand up to be representatives for us, to like, what do they care about? What do they hope for? And maybe it comes through sometimes, but it can easily get into that zone of, like bullet points and presentations. And this is a deep connection that we're supposed to have, especially on that kind of topic. And, I really feel that, that comes through from you. A weird little tradition that's been developing on this podcast is I ask my guests to tell someone that they love them, so it's recorded. I don't know why I do this. I think it's because, like, when my mum had cancer and she was dying, I did a lot of recordings with her.
Yeah, sorry to hear that.
No, that's okay, bro. That's part of life.
Yeah.
And actually, because I have those recordings, I don't mourn her anymore. I just try and celebrate her,
Yeah.
But I say that because maybe one of the things I was a bit mad at myself is I have lots of things of her saying, but I don't have her saying I love you. So it started with me that I'd like your family, and this is where it's a bit morbid and weird, but anyway, life's morbid and weird at times. So could you just look at that camera, pick someone that you love and just tell them that?
I love you, Mum and Dad and Emma.
Yeah, that's awesome, because like I did that with Efeso Collins. We were friends.
Right, yes.
And I asked him that, and when he passed, that was the first thing I thought, oh man, I've got clips of him saying he loves his kids and family, and I must send that. And I did send that. And I thought, like, we all play a little role in life. And how kind of weird would it be that that's my little role, or part of the role I play, is that, we think it sometimes, just like hope, we're supposed to do it. And it's okay to say we love people, And so anyway, in my weird world, in 1,000 years from now, you've said you love someone, and that's recorded.
Well, me and my fiance Wanda, we share multiple times a day that we love each other, either verbally, or just by group WhatsApp message throughout the day. Just simple 3 words. I love you, just throughout the day.
I love it. It's, if you need evidence of hope and action, that's exactly that, right? There's no proof that you can show someone you love them. It's an action. It's a doing word, and you're putting it out there every time you say it or text it to each other, that's a real thing. And, we believe it, so we do it. And it's something worth kind of fighting for, because the opposite to hope and no love, is a pretty intense reality that people do have right now somewhere in this world. Yeah. And so if you've got it, you should amplify it, you should share it. And I guess, Andrew, I just want to thank you for helping me try to amplify a bit of hope today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you very much for allowing me to come on here and be part of the message of hope that we're trying to share. So fully supportive, and hope we can have many more conversations at some point.
Boom. Just quickly, people want to get a mortgage with you. What's the best way to contact?
Just find me on Facebook, Andrew K Mortgages. or look up Simply Finance on Google, and I'm there to help.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
All good, man. Cheers.
This episode of A Beacon of Hope is proudly brought to you by Campfire Studios. Campfire Studios is an impact-led organisation amplifying the voices of Māori and Pasifika communities via podcasting and video content. To find out more, visit campfirestudios.co.nz. 2, 3, 4. Thank you for tuning in to this frequency of hope in our podcast today. If you found value from this episode and want to hear more, I would love it if you could follow, subscribe, and rate our show. By doing so, you will increase the frequency of the Beacon of Hope. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform, please take a moment to hit the follow or subscribe button and leave a rating and review. I truly appreciate your support and feedback, and it helps us make our podcast even better. Thank you.
Be good. Be safe. And be happy. Yeah. Sounds like that song, doesn't it? Be happy.
All right, Mama,
Yeah.
we'll stop there, eh?
Yeah, okay. All right.